everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 366 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to be talking about concerns that we have about our retirements and our personal finances in general, right? Because, as the year wraps up, there's a lot of things that are on your mind. There's Christmas, which we just came past. There's the new year starting off. There may be new beginnings in your life, new endings in your life, things that are occurring that you may have to do a lot of thinking about. And one of the things I don't want you to worry too much about is your retirement and your personal finances. And the way we can worry the least about those things is understanding what our biggest concerns are and addressing those concerns directly. So I want to talk about all those today and hopefully help you guys work through some of those concerns and get on the other side and be to a point of being, financially secure and without worry when it comes to your retirement situation. So stick around for a discussion of all that and more in today's episode. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. And that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions. And you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals and ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual who's watching or listening to the show on a day-to-day basis. Now, the way I want to structure this episode, I want to talk about just some basic money worries that we have and some things that are keeping us from being financially secure and without worry when it comes to our finances. And then I also want to talk about some things that are specific to retirees that they are specifically worried about at this point. And then obviously I want to leave you with things that you can do about it, right? What can you do about these worries? How can you alleviate them in your own life? So we'll just get started here from the top. The top 5 money worries that keep Americans up at night. The first is an unplanned health emergency. And man, this is, no surprise because we know healthcare costs in the United States are so extremely high, right? So according to Northwestern Mutual, 77% of Americans report feeling financial anxiety about the possibility of an unexpected health issue. Now, how do we fix this, right? We can't completely fix this. And I think it's important to be clear about that. You cannot completely fix the prospect of an unexpected health issue because health issues can be far more costly than our ability to save up for them. But that doesn't mean that you can't do anything, right? That doesn't mean that you can just, sit back and wait for this thing to occur or, wait and see if it does occur. The likelihood is some type of emergency is going to hit you and your family at some point, right? But how do we deal with this? We deal with this by having an emergency fund. That's why in the financial action plan, I tell you guys to build up an emergency fund of 4 to 6 months of household expenses ultimately, right? Because 4 to 6 months of household expenses should be enough to cover you through most immediate emergencies. Now, some emergencies, and especially some unplanned health emergencies, can last far longer than we ever expected, and they can also be far more expensive than anything that can just simply be covered by your 4 to 6 months of emergency savings. But that does not mean you shouldn't have it there, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it on that, because anything that is unexpected, unplanned, you couldn't have put money aside for it reasonably before, that is, something that we can spend our emergency fund money on. So at least having that cushion there can help you to be a little less anxious about your financial situation. I know that health emergencies can be expensive, but what can we ultimately do about our costs? Not a whole lot. Now, I will say this. If you do have the ability to put money into a health savings account or a flexible spending account, but especially a health savings, you can decrease your costs, right? You can decrease your health costs by getting a tax deduction on the front end and growing your money that you put into that specific type of account. So ultimately, you don't end up paying full price for whatever health emergency may come. So I think that's a real big thing that you can use if you have a high deductible plan. If you don't, then you have a lower deductible and you might be in better shape if a large health emergency comes along anyway. But having that emergency fund is huge in that particular situation. Now, the second thing here that's keeping Americans up at night is an unplanned financial emergency. So health emergency, financial emergency, what's the difference, right? Well, for 77% of Americans, an unplanned financial emergency is a major source of financial worry, right? It's also a justifiable concern because many types of unexpected expenses could arise and they could lead you into debt if you are not ready for them. And that's one of the biggest concerns here. And one of the biggest reasons why we want to have emergency funds, right? And we want to have some money ready because if we are not prepared for any type of emergency, then ultimately what we're left with is debt. Right? Because if you can't, pay for it yourself, the only way you can pay for it is by borrowing money. Now, maintaining an emergency fund is the best way to alleviate this concern, right? When you have money in the bank to cover surprise expenses, you don't need to worry about what you'll do when they come your way. Now, what does a financial emergency look like relative to a health emergency? Well, a financial emergency may be like losing a job, right? You lose income. Losing that income may be something that we need to dig into our emergency fund for. Okay. And the reason that we typically say 4 to 6 months of household expenses in an emergency fund is one of the worst things that can happen is you losing a job, right? Not having income. And if you have no income, then you should be able to get at least some of your income back, some job, some type of work within 4 to 6 months in your household, right? So taking care of something like that would be a financial emergency. Or like, this article is talking about this, Motley Fool article. Financial emergencies can just be unexpected expenses, things that pop up in your life that it's just difficult to cover. So there aren't as many of these other than the loss of a job, but unplanned health emergencies are a huge type of emergency. So I know we started off with two big emergencies there, but what else, right? What else do Americans stress about? Well, third, they stress about their income, right? And they have anxiety about their income. Income is a top source of financial stress, right? Fears about income could include worry about the possibility of losing it, so like a financial emergency, or the concern that you are not earning enough, okay? Now, I want to start by saying, for many Americans, it's not about not earning enough. They may feel that they don't earn enough, but they absolutely do. It's not about not earning enough. It's about they're spending too much money. They feel that their income does not cover their expenses and their lifestyle, not specifically that their income is not enough to live on. Because most Americans do have enough income to live on, just not with maybe the standard of living that they are choosing to employ in their life. Now, while an emergency fund can help shield you against the loss of your paycheck, you may also want to take on other steps like developing multiple streams of income, keeping your fixed expenses reasonable, right? That's what I'm talking about here. If you have fixed expenses like rent or your mortgage or your utilities or your food or whatever, right? That are unreasonable, that are, crazy high expenses or, your internet or things that you're choosing to do, your car payments, right? You may want to knock some of those things down in order to make your income go further, right? Because again, there are two sides to this equation in all cases. Of course, earning more money could allow you to be able to pay for whatever it is. But at the same time, you can't out-earn your willingness to go and increase your lifestyle, right? Because if you just keep increasing your lifestyle as you earn more money, it's going to do you no good. You're simply going to be left with no paycheck at the end of the month every single time. So worrying about your income is it's a perfectly right worry. It's a perfectly normal thing to be concerned about. But at the same time, you don't always have to, right? Obviously, if you make very, very little money, then yes, increasing your income is very important. If you work at a job that has a high likelihood of you being laid off at some point or let go at some point, then yes, that can bring a lot of stress as well. But again, that's why we have emergency funds, and that's why we budget properly to know what we're spending on things and what our expenses are, so we can be more financially secure where we're at. Then the fourth reason that Americans aren't able to sleep at night is an inability to afford healthcare. Now, this kind of goes with the first one, the unexpected health emergency. But here we're talking about not being able to afford actual health coverage, right? So not only are the health costs high, right? And, even if you have health insurance, you can attest to the fact that, the cost of healthcare is high. But if you can't even afford the healthcare, then everything is out of your pocket. So a total of 68 Americans say that an inability to afford healthcare is a major source of financial worry. The solutions to this are similar to preparing for an unplanned health emergency. They include getting the right insurance coverage, right? So that's first and foremost. Get the right insurance coverage. You need health insurance coverage, and you can do that during your open enrollment period, right? As well as making sure you have money set aside to cover your out-of-pocket expenses, having that emergency fund set aside. Now, if you have trouble affording insurance, you can look into whether you qualify for Medicaid coverage and things like that, but you have to have health insurance, right? The cost of something catastrophic occurring in your life healthcare-wise is just far too high to try to absorb it on your own, right? You need to have emergency fund money set aside, and you need to have health insurance that has the deductibles, that has the maximum out-of-pocket costs. That way, you're not just completely having to be on the hook for every single dollar of what you are charged by a hospital or a clinic or whatever, right? So have healthcare. Even if you find healthcare to not be very affordable, again, look into that Medicaid coverage. Look into any way you can get proper coverage for your healthcare, because if not, it can be a long road to hoe if you don't have healthcare at all. Those costs can be extremely high. Then the fifth, just personal finance worry that Americans have, and this is rightfully so, and it's something that I speak about on this show on a regular basis. That is your level of debt, right? How much debt Americans have. 60% of Americans report their level of debt as a source of financial anxiety. Being in debt is definitely something to be anxious about, because paying high interest costs can affect your ability to live on your income or accomplish important financial goals. Look, I preach about this on a regular basis. What do I say that debt is? Debt is a strain on your cash flow. And the only way that we can live financially free lives is to have nothing that is just sucking away our cash flow. And so we need to be out of debt. We need to not owe others money. Okay. And if we are out of debt, then we can invest aggressively. Then we can have emergency funds that aren't going to get depleted by, our creditors if we owe them money. We can be very generous. We can do all the things with money that we always wanted to do because we don't owe others. Now, this may mean decreasing your lifestyle. It may mean not living as high on the hog as you were previously, but it is going to be worth it. And if you're currently in debt very deeply, getting out of it is going to be one of the most freeing things that you do financially and otherwise in your life, right? It's no surprise that the level of debt that individuals have can create a lot of anxiety. Now, this is why I teach in the Financial Action Plan. If you follow this show at all, what do I teach? I teach you before you fully fund your emergency fund. Now, I do tell you to have some 1 month of emergency fund money before you do this. But before you fully fund your emergency fund, before you are investing aggressively for retirement, before you are trying to pay your house off early, before all of that, we are trying to get out of debt, right? To get that level of debt to zero or just our mortgage, right? And then everything from there is far easier, right? If you don't have debt, then life financially becomes very, very easy. So it's no surprise that it's hard to sleep at night when, you have a ton of debt outstanding, right? If you owe a lot of people a lot of money and you don't know how you're going to come up with that money, that can be extremely stressful. So this is no surprise. And it's a reason, it is probably the biggest reason that at the end of the day, I'm teaching you guys to get out of debt, where others may be saying you can use debt effectively. Well, if debt's one of the things that is, keeping Americans up at night because they can't, take care of the level of debt that they have in their financial life, then it's a problem, and it's something that we need to take care of. So we need to be out of debt. We need to budget properly. We need to make sure that we are not overspending anywhere, because all those things can hold us back very substantially from meeting our long-term financial goals. Now, you can see where all of these things, all these personal finance worries and anxieties that we have, they're all kind of tied to our willingness to live below our means, and to our willingness to manage our finances properly, to budget, to track our expenses, right? To have an emergency fund, all those types of things. Now, we can't control some of these things. We can't control the cost of healthcare. We absolutely cannot control that, right? We can't control when an emergency is going to occur, right? We cannot control that, right? We can't control if we get laid off or, fired for no reason. We cannot control that. All we can do is control what we can and put the proper safeguards in place in our financial lives, like being out of debt, like having an emergency fund, and that can move us forward in a lot more positive manner than just sitting back and waiting for something to happen. Now, what are some concerns that Americans have about their retirement, right? Those are just some general personal finance concerns. What are concerns about their retirement? And you would be not shocked to know, but you would likely be pleasantly surprised to know that their concerns aren't all that different from the concerns of just the general population. So the number one concern that they have is about healthcare costs. And if you think healthcare costs are high for the general population, retirees' healthcare costs are extremely high. Now, according to Goldman Sachs, 44% of retirees indicated that they had concerns about future healthcare needs. This is unsurprising given the whopping costs of medical care late in life. One recent Fidelity survey found that a senior couple could expect to spend around $300,000 out of pocket throughout their retirement on medical services beyond what Medicare pays for, right? Preparing for such a large expense could ideally start early, and current workers who are eligible for HSA accounts could strongly consider saving in it for their future healthcare needs. HSAs offer the opportunity, like I said earlier, you get tax deductions on the front end with your HSA. You can grow the money tax-free and then take the money out tax-free as long as the money is used for qualified medical expenses. And this will really decrease your overall cost of healthcare over the long term. Now, for seniors already in retirement without an HSA balance or without a large HSA balance or other money that's earmarked for medical care, finding the right Medicare coverage is absolutely essential to helping keep your costs low. Look, it's no surprise that healthcare costs have increased over time and they're likely to continue increasing. And so if you're planning for retirement or if you are in retirement, you have to have a plan for healthcare. You have to have money that's earmarked for healthcare. You have to have a way that you are going to pay for your healthcare costs, because ultimately we all age and ultimately we all need something in order to keep us, going, to keep us kicking, to whether it's, a knee replacement, hip replacement, medications, or, whatever, right? Or we have some type of illness or disease, then these things happen and healthcare costs are not going down, anytime soon, it seems like. So these are things that we need to be planning for. If you are outside of retirement, building up your HSA is a very, very big deal. Having money invested or saved for future healthcare costs is absolutely huge. Not retiring until you know that your nest egg can cover not only your living expenses, but also increasing healthcare costs over time is, again, a huge thing that we need to make sure that we are prepared for over the long term in our financial lives, right? So, like I said earlier, there's no surprise that these look very similar to our, just general money worries from the total population, right? I said earlier, unplanned health emergencies, right? Inability to afford health care. Those types of things are very similar to the concerns of retirees as well, because it all comes down to what is expensive and what is very difficult to keep up with if something were to go not as planned, okay? So healthcare costs, big concern of retirees. Now, another concern of retirees is a possible Social Security benefits reduction, okay? So many retirees are living on Social Security. They rely on Social Security for their income. Now, let me preface everything I'm about to say with that is not good. It is not a good thing to know that so many retirees are reliant on the federal government to pay, them for what? For being around, right? So ultimately, a benefits reduction could hurt so many retirees. So worries about Social Security came in a close second to concerns about healthcare costs. A total of 43% of retirees reported that they were afraid that their monthly benefit would fall in the future. It's also understandable that many people would have these fears, especially given that the most recent Social Security Trustees report indicated that the program's trust fund could run dry by 2034. while that wouldn't end benefits, as money from current workers would still come in, it could result in an automatic 22% reduction. Think about if your income decreased 22% in a year. That'd be quite dramatic. Now, the good news is that the political reality suggests lawmakers will step in to prevent retirees from losing a good chunk of their income. Social Security is a popular program, and past attempts to reform it have either failed or been phased in over decades so that no current seniors or people close to retirement were affected. All right, so I don't think this is a huge worry because it is so popular among the voting public. And if anybody was holding it up, they would hurt politically quite a lot, right? So this could still happen though. And, I know that we can print money and that we can come up with money as a federal government, but it's something that, has been talked about for a long, long time. Now, first of all, should retirees be living just on Social Security? Absolutely not, right? The reliance on the federal government for, your income, right? For the thing that's keeping you alive, for the thing that's keeping you, buying the things that you want to buy is dangerous, right? It is dangerous to rely on the federal government for something like that. It's dangerous to rely on anybody for that, right? So what do we need to do as non-retirees as we move towards that place? Well, we need to be making sure that we have nest eggs large enough to rely on, to live on, to have for our long-term futures. Because without having a nest egg, without having any other types of monies, you're going to be relying on Social Security. And if you didn't know, Social Security is not a lot of money. It is not a living wage, as people like to talk about all the time, right? It is not that much money, and not having that much money coming in means you can't have that much money going out. And so your retirement is not going to be much fun, right? You're not going to have a whole lot of money to spend or a whole lot of money to give or a whole lot of money to do other things with in retirement if you are just simply, relying on Social Security benefits. So build up a nest egg that is going to be able to sustain you, and then you will be better set up for your retirement goals over the long term. Now, this next, worry and fear and concern of retirees is, inextricably tied to Social Security. It's tied to, all different types of costs. And it's something that we're dealing with quite a lot right now. And it is the consequences of inflation. Now, inflation has been a big issue for retirees, with 42% reporting to Goldman Sachs that they were worried about the effects of rising prices on the remainder of their retirement. This concern is especially justified when current soaring inflation is happening across the U.S., right? With inflation pushing 7% on an annualized basis, this is a big concern for retirees, especially those who are living on fixed benefits. Yes, Social Security is going to give a cost of living benefit like they do every year, but the cost of living benefit comes after the increase in costs, right? So you are absorbing all of those costs in the year that those costs are actually increasing, and then getting the cost of living adjustment for the next year, right? So you're actually behind the curve when it comes to your income. And even if you're not just living on Social Security, you're living on your own nest egg, the higher inflation is, the more concern you should have as well. Because let's say you're taking some fixed dollar amount off of your nest egg every month or whatever to live on. Well, that fixed dollar amount is not going as far as it used to. Or let's say you're taking some fixed percentage, right? Let's say you're taking, the old 4% rule. Well, you may be taking 4% off of your retirement accounts, but if the increase in costs, associated with your life is increasing at a 7% rate, then you are actually losing money on a real basis relative to, your inflation, right? Relative to the inflation that is occurring in real time. So you have to keep pace with inflation. You have to increase the amount of money you have past inflation, and being invested in assets that are going to increase in value as inflation increases is very important. And the stock market is a great place to do this, right? Having money in stocks is absolutely huge to be able to continue growing your money. If you're living off of bonds are giving you fixed payments, right? And so those fixed payments are going to decrease in real value over time. And then again, Social Security, while the inflation is occurring, Social Security is only diminishing in value in real terms as well. Now, the best way to be prepared for high inflation is to invest wisely so that your money grows faster than prices increase. right? To have more saved than you think you'll need, so you can increase your spending if prices rise more than expected, and to try to maximize Social Security income, which at least provides some protection against inflation, even if the cost of living adjustments are too small. For current retirees, making budget cuts may be essential, as it's too late to increase savings substantially or change a Social Security strategy. This can mean taking advantage of senior discounts or substitute products when certain items have become very expensive, or even moving to an area with lower cost of living if inflation continues to be persistent, right? So these are big worries for the retirement community today, but for us looking in from the outside, we have to be prepared. And we have to know when we go into retirement that inflation is a big thing that we need to be concerned about. Look, I know for many years now, right, we haven't had to worry about inflation, but it has reared its ugly head once again, and we have to be prepared for it, right? You have to look at history and go, inflation has happened over history, right? And so being prepared for it over a 20, 30 year plus retirement is absolutely essential. And there's no wonder that retirees, current retirees, are worried about inflation and the value of the dollar continuing to decline relative to what it has been in the past. So I want to tell you all this. All of these concerns and all of these anxieties are warranted. Okay, I don't think that any of these are unnecessary concerns or unrealistic concerns. I think they are all necessary concerns and realistic concerns. The good news is you can do something to combat just about every one of them. Now, there are tons of things here, again, that we cannot control, even on the retiree side. I talked about from just the general concerns, right? But can you control healthcare costs? No, you cannot. Right? Can you control Social Security and their ability to continue paying what they're paying? No, you cannot. Can you control inflation? No, you cannot. Right? So what do you have to do? You have to plan around these things. Right? Just like anything else in life, you have to plan around things that may occur and around things that are currently occurring in order to create the best outcomes possible for yourself. And in this case, create the best outcomes possible for yourself financially. Okay? These are difficult things to combat. Okay, I'm not discounting that, but there are simple things that you can do, right? With the healthcare costs, we just need to be able to plan ahead of time, have big enough nest eggs to cover the costs associated with Social Security benefits. It all comes down to not relying on Social Security and not being dependent on the federal government for your income. And then with inflation, it comes down to growing your money and investing your money properly and planning for inflation. Again, all of these are planning. Planning to not rely on Social Security. Planning for inflation to occur. Planning for high healthcare costs. And if you plan properly for all these things in your financial life, you should not have a problem. Now, if you're currently retired, this may be a problem because there's no more planning. You're just living. You're trying to survive on what you currently have. And I completely understand that. And that's why these are real concerns. But if you're not there, which I'm sure most of the people I'm speaking to are not there, are not to retirement yet, then you still have time to protect yourself from some of these anxieties, protect yourself from some of these worries, because I don't want us to be worried about our financial life. I want us to live financially free, right? And if you think about freedom, you think about true freedom. True freedom comes with not being, just overly concerned about every little thing, not being worried, not being stressed. Freedom is, I think about just taking a deep breath and going, I'm free, right? I can enjoy, I can go and I can do, and I can have a good time. I can spend my money the way I want to spend it. I can be assured that I have money invested for my future. I can give like I've never given before. And all of these things will lead to the most happiness that you can have surrounding your financial life. And it will lead to you being the best steward of your personal finances that you could be, right? These worries are warranted. These worries are real, but that does not mean that you are not in a proper position to combat against them. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to fight against some of these worries, but you have to take proactive steps and not just expect that they will go away on their own or that they won't rear their ugly head at some point, because they absolutely will. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions. And you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals and ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual who's watching or listening to this show on a day-to-day basis. So tune in tomorrow as I continue talking about personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.